Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I've learned as I've grown into the person that I am today. And I'm just sitting out here on my front porch, enjoying my iced coffee. I just added some ice cubes because it was melting a little bit, so I put some creamer in it today, and I put 3 pumps of the French toast syrup in here, and it is delicioso. It is so good. So I have been talking to my neighbors today and just having such a good day and running around the yard with Mr. Boo Radley. I had to go to the dentist earlier because I had to have a deep cleaning, but it really wasn't that bad. I was joking about it earlier and making it out to be kind of more of what it was, but it really wasn't that bad. I was only there for an hour. And she's like, I'm so happy that you've kept up on your teeth because each time that you come, they're getting better and better and better, so I'm very happy about that. I did a video yesterday where it was called Addressing the Comments, and I read a few comments and responded to them, and I think that I'm going to do that again today. There are 2 comments that I have picked. One of them is very, very long, so I'm going to read it to you. And just give you my gut response, not expert opinion, just based on my personal experience, okay? So, let me read you this comment. This person said, and the reason why I'm answering this comment is because the person really asked for help. They said, I could use some sobriety advice, Peter. My husband and I have been together for 12 years. He has been sober for 9 years, but the first 3 years of our relationship were him lying about his addiction, gaslighting me, making me feel crazy, etc. It instilled such a trust issue with me towards him. Even 9 years later, with him being sober, I still have trust issues. Not with him being on drugs again, but just a distrust in general, and he just doesn't get it no matter how much I try to explain it. I tell him, well, it's because you lied to my face for 3 years, and every time I start to get my trust back for you, and then you lie to me about other things, even if it's small, it's like my trust issues start all over again. He says, well, I haven't done anything wrong for 9 years, so if you don't trust me, it's your fault. I tell him he needs, which I have to be honest with you, I feel like is gaslighting a little bit. I tell him he needs to realize building trust back, especially when it's been broken down over years and years and years, that it takes a long time to earn trust back. What is your advice for me to tell him so he gets it? How can I work on building my trust back for him? I think those are 2 very important questions. Because he isn't doing anything super bad. It's just little lies like, I'm going to the store, I'll be back in an hour, and then being gone for 3 hours and not answering his phone. He doesn't realize how hard this is on me, and it brings back my trauma, and he doesn't see why. Help. Please read my comment. I need help. And yes, I've been in therapy every Thursday for 8 years. I think that your question and your concern is very important, and I think very well stated. And so, first of all, there was a comment underneath here where somebody recommended couples counseling, okay? I would highly recommend couples counseling. Well, the first thing is that you said that you were in therapy every Thursday and had been, I think you said for, I don't know how many, for 8 years. Okay. So, and I don't know that you're going to like my response to this, but this is just going to be what I'm going to say. The first thing I would say is I would take to your therapist and say, if I were in this situation, what I would do is I would go to my therapist and I'd say, you know what, I've been coming to you for 8 years. I am still really struggling with these trust issues, and because the reality is we can't change other people, and we can't change their actions. So as much as you try, as hard as you try to explain it to him, he may never get it. He may continue for the next 20 years to say, I'm going to the store and come back 3 hours later, right? And you're going to have to make a decision whether or not you know, are okay with that. That's a decision that you have to make. But if I had been going to a therapist for 8 years and the trust wasn't getting any better, I would either bring it up to my therapist and say, I don't know what's going on in here, but I need further help on this, or I mean more intensive help. Can we do other exercises, or are there things specifically, books that you can tell me to read, or maybe, you know, certain things that you can tell me to listen to, audiobooks or podcasts or whatever that will really help me with my trust issues? Because I need help on this. Like, it's been 8 years of me coming into therapy and it's not getting any better. First, I would always bring it to your therapist because you have a good rapport with your therapist. Obviously, if you've been seeing them for 8 years, you have a good relationship with them. They should hear that. And they might not even be aware, unless this is something that you bring up on a weekly basis, you know, that it's not getting any better. And I would give them the opportunity to try to maybe work on that and make that better, since you do have a good relationship with that. I would try that over a couple weeks or a month or whatever. If it doesn't get any better, I think one of the things we're so afraid to do when we get a therapist that we trust and we feel close to is that we're afraid of changing therapists. And I actually had a friend of mine in recovery that she changes her therapist no matter what is going on. She changes her therapist every 3 to 4 years because she just wants to hear a new voice. She just wants to hear something different, right? And she'll say to me, you know, like, I think that if you're with the same person for a long period of time, which I have to say, like, had our past marriage counselor never found his dream job of flipping houses, that we would probably still be with him. And I don't know, I'll probably be with my therapist for a very long time because I adore him and he has been so helpful to me and to our marriage. But, you know, there's a lot of people that are in this belief system that when you're with somebody for a very long time, that the usefulness of it stops being helpful, that you need to kind of like reinvent what you're doing in therapy. Like, are you just going in and doing a press conference? Are you just going in and saying, and just word vomiting? Or are you actually doing some work in there? So I would give your therapist the opportunity and say, like, this is really troubling to me. Like, I'm not getting any better. This is really a struggle for me. Because really, in all honesty, you cannot change your husband. Okay, I wish you could. I don't even know that there are things that I can tell you that will make him get it, right? It does concern me, and I don't know if you say he's sober, I don't know if he's working in a 12-step program, but in a 12-step program, if my husband brought to me something to that effect, I would immediately take that to my sponsor. My sponsor would say, well, that's something that we need to work on because it is your responsibility to make your husband feel safe. It is your responsibility to be accountable to your husband. There's no reason, like this person that responded to you said, that you can't text him, you know, like, and in all honesty, I'll just share a personal story. Like, that was something that, like, Alex and I am somebody that, like, if I'm, like, going to the meeting, you know, like, he drops me off at Tanya's, I'll be like, just got to the meeting, and then when we leave the meeting, I'll be like, I'm leaving the meeting, and he'll be like, okay, thanks for the 411. Like, he doesn't need that. He doesn't want that, right? You know, everything I do, I'll be like, I'll go upstairs, you know, if he's laying in bed, I'll be like, do you care if I, you know, go run around with my friend Valerie for a little bit? Or, hey, I'm gonna, you know, go to the pool with the neighbor. He's like, that's fine, babe. You don't need to tell me every little detail about it, right? But I am somebody that likes to know those things, you know? And he knows that. And that has been one of the things that has had to be communicated in couples counseling. And Alex is fantastic at that now, you know? Like, if he's leaving a restaurant and he's going to a bar and having a couple drinks with his friends, his girlfriends, he'll say, hey, we're leaving, you know, Livery, and we're going to go down the street to such and such place, and we're going to have, you know, 2 glasses of wine, and then I'll be home. And I'll be like, okay. And then he'll be like, okay, we're leaving the place. I'm getting an Uber now. And I'll be like, okay. It's a safety issue, too, because I want to know that my husband's safe. And I think that's probably what it is for you as well. One of the wonderful things about couples counseling is that you have a third party that can tell your partner things that they're not going to hear from you, but they will hear it from a third party. And that is why, like this person that responded to you said something about couples counseling, I would highly, highly recommend couples counseling, because I think to have that third party in there that might also point out some things to you about, like, why you still are having anxiety over the lying and all that kind of stuff. Well, ultimately what it was that you had ultimate betrayal and trust issues that were stomped all over, and you have a right to still feel that way. The flip side to that is you don't want to feel like that at 10 years, at 20 years. You want to be able to live your life free and not have to worry and have these trust issues, you know? And I'm somebody that in the past has struggled with trust issues with all of my partners that I've been with, right? And probably comes from having grown up in an alcoholic home and not ever really knowing where the next thing comes from. And I've had many therapists say to me, your trust issues are your trust issues, not your partner's, right? Like, they're yours to work on. And that's hard to hear sometimes, right? The other thing that I would recommend is, if you aren't already, getting involved in Al-Anon or Nar-Anon, which are sister programs to Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous. They're 12-step programs for family members and friends of alcoholics and addicts. And they don't teach you how to cure the person. They teach you how to work on yourself in relation to how you have been affected by having an alcoholic or an addict in your life. There are people in Al-Anon and Nar-Anon that have been there for 40 plus years, and maybe their alcoholic or addict died 30 years ago, or maybe they divorced them 35 years ago, but they're still in their life a person that has reacted to situations and circumstances by being in a relationship with somebody that way because they were so affected by it. I would find it hard to believe that if you went to an Al-Anon or Nar-Anon meeting, and you brought this up, that you wouldn't have heads nodding left and right, and people wouldn't be saying, I totally understand where you're coming from. I totally agree with what you're saying. I totally get what you're saying. And you might hear a lot of people that give you suggestions on how to handle that situation. You know, that would be one of my recommendations. The other thing is, you know, and I'm not saying that you're codependent, and I don't necessarily feel that codependency is a negative word. I feel like it gets a bad connotation, but I would definitely recommend reading the book Codependent No More. It changed my life. It really made me look at my relationships with other people. It allowed me to start setting healthy boundaries and limitations with people, and it made me feel independent and being able to live my life freely, and also realize what they're going to do, and I don't have a lot of control over that, and I can choose to live my life the way that I want to. So if you haven't already, I would recommend getting the book Codependent No More, and then the meditation book, The Language of Letting Go, and I would do those simultaneously. I think it would bring you a lot of, like, if you haven't done that already, I think that would bring you a lot of, you know, freedom from some of the stuff that you're going through. But I feel for you. I really do. You know, and I think the other thing is that people don't really necessarily realize, you know, it's like, it took many years for my dad and my stepmom to trust me. You know, even my mom, having been an alcoholic, like, it took many years for her to trust me and the things that I would say. Even sober, even when she knew people that I was going to meetings with, even when she knew I had gone to a meeting and came right over her house, you know, she still, because she had been so affected negatively by my actions and my constant lying. I mean, lying goes along with addiction, you know. And also, you know, we talk about addiction, the root of it being selfishness and self-centeredness. So that's about only thinking about yourself and lying, or lying by omission, which to me is not contacting somebody for 3 hours or answering your phone. That's a lie by omission, okay? Like, that's a safety issue to me at some point, is saying to that person, you know, like, if my husband, if I texted him and he didn't respond to me for 3 hours, I would want to know where the hell he was, you know? Like, that would be very concerning to me. So, and not even just from a trust issue, from a safety issue. I'd be like, well, was he in an accident? Did something happen? Like, I'm really worried about him, you know? Did he make it into the Uber that he said he was going to make it into? Did somebody get him on the street? Like, I mean, you know, those are things that I think a lot about, safety issues, you know? So I think your questions are fair. I would first bring it up to your therapist and see if you can do further work on it. And then, and like I said, it's okay to change therapists, you know? You don't have to. Like I said, you already have a great relationship with this therapist. I try to build it further. And then, this is just my personal experience from having gone through these things. I would also recommend going to a 12-step program for friends and family members of alcoholics and addicts. And then I would also recommend reading, you know, Melody Beatty's Codependent No More and The Language of Letting Go. I think it would really help you if you read it every day, you know. And those are just a few things, but I think one of the things that I have learned, you know, marriage is hard. People want to talk about, you know, this is the stuff about marriage that is hard, okay? This is the stuff that about relationships that's hard, whether you're married or not, if you're a long-term relationship, you know? Even in friendships, when you say something repeatedly to somebody and they just don't get it, they just don't understand it, it's like, what can I say for you to understand how I feel? Because what you're doing, it's not about just listening to me, it's about respecting my feelings and respecting my stance. Because I have to venture to guess that you would feel a lot different if your husband said to you, not that this is your fault, okay, that you still don't trust me, but instead if your husband said to you, wow, I didn't realize that my actions were still triggering to you, you know, and I'm so sorry that I did that, and I'll do a better job in the future, and when I don't call you or text you, let me know, because I don't want to trigger you, and I love you, and I'm so thankful for the support that you've given me through the years. But the fact that it's been 9 years and this is still upsetting to you, maybe we need to go to a counseling session and we need to work on this together. How can I be supportive of you? I have a feeling that the way that he responded to you, if he had responded to you differently, would have been completely different. Because I know for me, that's one of the things we learned in marriage counseling, was how to talk to one another, you know? Because when I'm like, I mean, my husband shuts down. He doesn't listen to it, you know? So I had to learn that doesn't work, right? So for your husband shutting you down and saying, well, those are your issues, that's hurtful. That's not validating your feelings of how you feel, right? But I also know, having gone through similar things myself in my life, with my mom being in recovery and things as well, is that you don't want to have distrust for 10, 20 years. You know, I think that's the immediate thing, is that when you bring it up, people think, well, what's wrong with them? Like, they're holding on to this distrust for a reason. If you ever been in the same shoes that I have, that you're talking about, or whatever, it's like, you don't want that feeling. You want that feeling gone. Right? Like, you don't want to distrust that person. You want to be able to trust them complicitly, you know? Or implicitly, I guess is the word I'm looking for. You want to trust them with everything that you possibly have, but there's a boundary, there's an obstacle there, you know? And sometimes for me, I have to go with my gut when I don't trust my friends or something's going on. I have to trust my gut a little bit and be like, is there something off that I'm not... My gut is telling me something's off here and I'm not aware of it, you know? And then that goes into further distrust and worry and anxiety and stress and everything like that, right? So I feel for you, I really do. I would start with your therapist and come up with a plan of action with your therapist. So I hope things get better for you. I really, really do, because it's hard. It's very, very hard, you know? Okay, and the next comment that I want to respond to is somebody said, I would appreciate if you would do a video on non-supportive family, or just family that deflects everything and blames you for everything. Now, I have to say, I've mentioned recently that I had toxic family members in my life. I would say distant toxic family members, but I have always in my life felt very supported by my family, and I feel very blessed that I have been very supported by my family. My family doesn't blame everything on me. They never have. They don't deflect things on me. I think because my mom was very involved in therapy, and I just think that my dad, you know, having been a surgeon and talking to patients, they were very open-minded about having conversations, and let's talk about your feelings, and then let's get your feelings out, let's validate your feelings, and things like that. So we had lots of sit-down conversations when I was growing up as a kid. Many, many, many sit-down conversations, you know? So no, I didn't grow up in a family where they deflected things on me or blamed me for things. That was not my experience. I have had many friends of mine where that is their situation. I think coming from a smaller family where I just have my dad and my stepmom now and my cousin Caroline and, you know, my in-laws, where there really isn't a lot of fighting, that my response when my friends bring that to me is, why do you continue to go around them? Like, I know for me, I kind of run from that stuff a little bit. Like, I don't do real well with it. Like, I would probably say something to that family member, and I would say, why are you always constantly blaming things on me? Like, I cannot be the root cause of everything that has happened, you know, that is wrong in our lives. Like, I can't be to blame for everything, and it's really hurtful to me when you make it that way. First of all, I bring it to their attention because they might not even realize that they're doing it. If it then falls on deaf ears and they're not hearing it, okay, and you say it once and you say it twice, then I think that's where you can say, I can't continue to come around to family functions if every time I leave, I feel worse than when I came. And every time that I come around you guys just make me feel like crap. And you make me feel like, why am I even part of this family? You know, one of the things that I feel very blessed about in being gay is that early on in my coming out, I heard the term family of choice versus family of origin. And, you know, my family of origin is my mom, my dad, you know, okay, all that. My family of choice are the people that I choose to be my family. Like Tanya Jean is like sister mother to me, you know. Valerie is like a mother figure to me. You know, many of my other, Mel and Nikki are like sisters to me, you know. A lot of my friends in recovery are like sisters and brothers to me. I have many father figures, you know, in recovery. Tanya's husband, Eric, is a father figure to me. I have a family of choice that I surround myself with, that I can be with. I don't have to be with my family of origin if they're bringing me negativity. Thankfully, I don't experience that. But I also think that's where you can build your family of choice around you, you know? I don't know. I feel like often we go to family functions even when they make us sad or upset or angry out of obligation because we feel bad if we don't go. I stopped doing that long ago. Like, I stopped going to things that don't bring me enjoyment, you know? So, you know, and I can't think of like a family situation that I didn't go to. But like I said, like I don't deal with a lot of like toxic family situations. But in my personal life, like with friends, like if I go out and it gets to be upsetting or whatever, I just leave. I'm just like, okay, like, hey you guys, it was nice, I'm out of here. I don't have to make a scene, I don't have to cause a scene or whatever, I just leave, you know? I also try to go into situations and not set my expectations too high, but that doesn't mean that I have to make excuses for other people's expectations. I have a right to my feelings. Feelings are not facts, and what I mean by that is, do not base long-term decisions on your feelings today that might change tomorrow. But that being said, you have a right to your feelings. If you feel as if your family is diminishing who you are, or is blaming things on you, or is deflecting things upon you, that is very, very real to your experience. And you have every right to share that. Every person on this planet has a right to share their experience and their feelings, and you have a right to your feelings. And don't ever let anybody tell you that you don't. So I hope that those things were helpful to you guys. I love doing these videos where I'm just responding to comments. So anyway, let me know what you think in the comment section below. I love you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.